bring back the MRS degree?
They're working 9 to 5 because so many women are staunch feminists and they're getting really burnt out.
The Young Women's Leadership Summit just happened in Dallas, Texas. Thousands of young women from across the country came together to share their conservative values and to hear from leaders such as Charlie Kirk and Riley Gaines. If you're not familiar, it's an annual conference, and I was not familiar until this week when I first saw clips of it on social media. It's an annual women's conference hosted by Turning Point USA, and this conference was the largest ever attended by around 3,000 young women. So there's a couple great news articles that I'm going to read today and react to, as well as some clips from social media that I've been saving to react to, because I think this is a conversation that should be had. Like, these young women exist, these political ideologies are out there, and they are becoming very pervasive in our culture or on social media and being touted by political leaders and people who are voted into office. Hi, I'm Liz. Welcome to That Liz Hunter, my YouTube channel where I talk about whatever's on my mind. I've just launched a membership tier if you want more deep dives. I've already posted some videos that are members only, and I'm super excited for that tier because there's a lot of videos that I would love to make that I think I could just make quickly and share with members only, that I don't have to worry about like going out to the entire world. And I'm also slowly migrating all my vlogs to a vlog channel so that we can focus completely on commentary and talking about whatever's on my mind over here. I'm going to be making a channel update where I share all of that in more detail soon, but for now, let's dive into this Young Women's Leadership Summit. So the very first video I saw on this conference was from the Times UK. So we're going to react to this video that they did where they went and interviewed the young women at this conference and shared that on TikTok. And I think this is very enlightening because these are just regular people who are attending the conference.
I think that millennials have bought into the left-wing agenda. A lot of them have gone to college for a better future and have come out so brainwashed. And unfortunately, a lot of millennials are not starting families. They're working 9.
I want to know the data on that. I want to know, is the data not that like if you go to college that you are more likely to get married and stay married and not get divorced? Here's the data. This is from 2019, so let's consider that it hasn't updated for 2025. But in 2019, around 44% of millennials were married. Studies have shown that millennials are marrying later in life and are more likely to be single than previous generations at their same age. But a significant portion of Gen Z, especially those under 25, are not marrying at all or are marrying much later in life. And I think it's really interesting that Gen Z conservatives are saying like millennials are going to college and they're not getting married, when Gen Z is struggling to go out on dates. Like, they're becoming increasingly antisocial, and to get married, you by necessity need to be social. Going to these young women's conferences, you're not meeting men. Most of you are unmarried. So to complain about working women like myself who go out into the workforce and meet men and who go out on dates and live life, that we are not getting married when you're online fussing at us, like, you're not doing anything better. You're not going out there and getting married by being online or going to conferences that are filled with women. You have to actually go out and meet people to get married. And I'm not certain. The studies have shown that like Gen Z is becoming increasingly more antisocial. Millennials are much more social. Like, we're much more likely to go out to a bar. We're much more likely to go to a sporting event. We're much more likely to like join a local like sporting league, and casual sporting league, or get involved in like local fun things where we meet other people and get married than Gen Z, because Gen Z is so antisocial. And that is the effect of lockdown for certain, but I'm not sure why we hate on millennials. I think the hate on millennials is like across the political sphere. I don't think it's just conservative women who hate on millennials. It's a weird, like, boomers hate on us. They say we ruined everything by eating avocado toast. And Gen Z hate on us because they ain't. I had this instinct that I was correct, that college-educated women were more likely to marry and not get divorced. I was right. So this is a study that was published in 2015, and I still think it applies because the impact of college, the impact of education, and when you make life decisions is across generations. Like, so the study in 2015, I think, still applies as it does in 2025. About half of first marriages in the US are likely to survive, at least 20 years, but for one demographic group, college-educated women have an almost 8 in 10 chance of still being married after 2 decades. Researchers at the National Center for Health Statistics estimate that 78% of college-educated women who married for the first time between 2006 and 2010 could expect their marriages to last at least 20 years. But among women who have had a high school education or less, that is only 40%. Your life expectancy and your income happiness and your marriage happiness is significantly likely to go up if you are college educated. Going to college allows your brain to mature, it allows you to establish yourself and own your sense of identity. And choosing to get married after college or meeting your person in college and getting married allows you to have made a decision that's not hasty, that's made after you know who you are as a person. And that's why my instinct is like, oh, if you're college educated and you get married after you graduate, your marriage is more likely to last than someone who got married as a teenager who maybe it was rushed, maybe it was an impulse decision, and perhaps they changed or they matured in their 20s and realized they're not the same person that they were at 16 or 17, and they can't reconcile the person they are in their 20s with who they were as a teenager, and so it ends up in divorce. I just find the idea that college-educated women don't get married and don't have children to be BS, because college-educated women have the ability to raise a family, have a job, and be happy. And they also statistically are happier while doing it. So I think that's your bias, ma'am, at play.
I am a Christian, first of all, and my Christian values align a lot with the Conservative Party. My main values are the abortion views of the Conservative Party, which also aligns with my religion, and also the transgender movement in the United States and the way that President Trump is handling such.
So her values on abortion and the transgender movement align with being conservative. And I would just say that if you are conservative and you want to be an anti-abortion fighter, then you should also be fighting for children to not be separated from their mothers due to deportation policies. You should also be fighting for universal health care so that mothers don't go into massive debt to have their children. You should also be fighting for universal daycare and pre-K so that children who are born, literacy rates increase and that they are set up for success in their life. You should be fighting for universal lunches for children so that children who are born don't have to suffer at school without lunch or have to worry if they are going to have food, because if parents are forced to have children, then sometimes they are born into poverty and they won't have the money necessary to provide for their needs. So you should be fighting for a universal basic income as well, so that no child is born into poverty in the United States. Like, if you're going to force people to have children, then you need to be pro-life in all aspects of your politics. And that is, I think, the main issue a lot of us who are upset at the pro-abortion movement have, is that you seem to care about a baby before it's born a lot more.
I'm currently a teacher and an educator, so my reason and my strategy for voting was based on not only my personal and moral beliefs, not only as a young woman of God, but also for the things that I support in my political career as an educator.
I am curious what values that the Republican Party is promoting in your classroom, as they're taking away funding for children with disabilities in your classroom. I don't understand why you would vote for a party that is actively defunding public schools in order to promote private education for the very wealthy. Explain that, ma'am, please.
I voted for Trump because he was willing to go after some of the health concerns I think we have in America, like our food dyes and microplastics and vaccines.
The president is actively anti-science. He is defunding the National Institutes of Health. He is firing the board of advisors who make certain that our vaccines are safe so that we can be protected during flu epidemics in the fall. He has actively defunded research into preventing childhood cancers at universities, and they're actively defunding FDA food regulators that make sure that our meat is packaged safely and effectively so that we don't get diseases from the foods that we buy at grocery stores. And also, he's making it more expensive to have healthy foods by imposing tariffs or threatening to impose tariffs on produce that is imported from other countries. Like, we cannot grow avocados and fruit and bananas and lots of fruits and vegetables like tomatoes and strawberries in quantities enough in the United States to feed our entire population healthy food. And imposing tariffs on countries that grow those foods and import them into the United States will make the cost of healthy food like tomatoes, strawberries, avocados, bananas much more expensive. Trump's policies are anti-science and therefore they are anti-health. And I understand the like Make America Healthy Again movement doesn't want to accept that, but that is simply the truth. Like, you cannot be anti-science and also pro-health.
Cancel culture and everything, we are so easily influenced by social media. The Democratic Party's values don't align with ours at all anymore. They talk about things like social issues and they harp on that kind of thing. I'm worried about buying a house, and I'm worried I might not be able to with rising housing costs and low interest rates, and I know just how terrible our economy is doing right now.
You're worried about the fact that you might not be able to buy a house while the current president is threatening to impose tariffs on steel, lumber, and other imported products that will construct your house, and it is actively harming the economy. Also, Kamala Harris ran on a campaign of allowing first-generation homeowners to get funding to help them buy a house. And you're mixing up the economy with cancel culture just because you feel unwelcome on social media by certain people. And I'm not saying you should be canceled at all, but your economic views are plain wrong. Find anyone who actively understands the economy and ask them, is President Trump's policies helping the economy? And they'll tell you no. The reason interest rates are so high is because President Trump's economic and monetary policies are causing prices to rise. And when prices rise, we keep interest rates high to prevent inflation. I'm not an economist, but I understand that we need to keep inflation low, and that's what interest rates do, because if we drop interest rates, inflation will rise, and you're not going to like inflation. So interest rates are helping balance out inflation. I will be honest, I've never heard of this speaker at this Young Women's Leadership Conference who is bashing on liberal women. But her name is Alex Clark, and she hosts a popular podcast that I will not listen to because I want to save my brain cells. But there's this amazing picture of her in a tweed dress, and then her like veneer-laced smile. I don't know if they're veneers, but she's definitely done something to her teeth and like pumped her face full of Botox, most likely. She says, let's be honest, it's never been hotter to be a conservative. The left, they've got TikTok activists with 5 shades of autism, panic attacks, and a ring light. A ring light? You're talking about the left being full of like faux internet presence with ring lights and like publicly talking about mental health, whereas you have Kristi Noem in full-on hair extensions in front of the El Salvadorian prison with a ring light. Like, Kristi Noem is like everything that you're talking about here. She says, we've got girls who look like they just walked off the cover of Vogue and can deadlift more than Harry Sisson. I don't think any of these conservative girls look like they walked off the cover of Vogue. They look like they walked out of a plastic surgeon's office. Also, all these people will like bash birth control, but have no problem with Botox. Like, which is more toxic? Natural hormones that are used to prevent a pregnancy that has lifelong health impacts, or Botox that you're filling your face with that will kill your facial muscles? Like, which one is unhealthier? Most of the young women I spoke with were repeat attendees, but a few were first-time guests or newly minted conservatives who, emboldened by Trump's victory, wanted to connect with like-minded young women their age. At the tail end of the election, there was all this messaging to Gen Z that made conservative culture look cool. Alexis Wilkins, a 26-year-old country artist who sang the national anthem to open the conference, said, "It came out how we're not these stuffy, crazy people that don't want to have a good time and we're sitting in a corner hating everyone." Many of the women told me they were excited to see Clark or Brett Cooper, a 23-year-old podcaster who has more than 1.7 million followers on her YouTube channel. That's a few 100,000 more than called her daddy. Even my friends who are not political know who Brett Cooper is. Shelby Gwen, a 17-year-old from Atlanta who came to the conference with her mom, told me. She's really brought a lot of people in. Cooper told me that when she started at the Daily Wire, the conservative website co-founded by Ben Shapiro, her audience was only 10% female. The right-wing media landscape was very male-dominated, and there were very few Gen Z voices, and most were men. Now her audience skews 60 to 65% female. I knew that I wanted to reach common-sense, right-leaning young women who, like me, had felt alienated and like they didn't have a place in the media landscape. And over time, it happened. Some first-time attendees told me they had been radicalized by the pandemic with its mask mandates, lockdowns, and what they saw as arbitrary social distancing restrictions. The COVID situation really turned me off, Emma Smith, a 21-year-old college student and self-described former diehard liberal, told me. I'm sorry, how diehard liberal can you be when you're just 21? Like, explain that to me. How were you ever a diehard liberal? Because in 2018, if you're 21 today, you didn't even vote in 2020. Like, you were never old enough to vote. You were never old to participate in local elections. And if COVID turned you off, that means by the time you were old enough to register to vote, you were a conservative. Anyway, she said that forcing vaccinations on people turned her off from being liberal. Forcing vaccinations on people is too far, but forcing people to have babies is okay. For others, it was transgender athletes and women's sports that pushed them right. I want to protect female athletes. Katarina I don't know how to say her last name, DeCosmo, an Oakland University chapter leader for the right-wing campus group Network for Enlightened Women, said it did not matter to her that transgender women make up less than 0.002% of athletes at the college level. Most of these women said they had never met a transgender person before. Overall, the young women I spoke with were less animated by any specific social issue and more by frustration with the vision they felt liberal millennials offered them. That brand of lean-in, inspired girl boss feminism that suggests modern women can deftly balance families with careers. The most common theme I heard from both speakers and attendees was that young women should opt out of higher ed and focus on getting married, becoming a homemaker, and raising as many kids as possible. Clark's speech laid the groundwork for this argument, praising moms who had ripped their kids out of daycare and boasting about wanting to make American women thin, fertile, and conservative. Feminism told women to chase their corporate dreams for their validation while their kids were eating seed oils and their marriages were collapsing. Well, we're done pretending that a cubicle is more empowering than a countertop. A cubicle is more empowering than a countertop. Honestly, that sounds like a porno. I'd asked Clark what women attending the conference were supposed to take away from this, whether her speech should be interpreted as a call for women to drop out of the workforce and return to the kitchen. We're not saying that women cannot have a career. We're just thinking about that path differently than what we are typically historically told. We were lying to women by saying, oh yeah, you can be a mom full-time and have an amazing marriage and be 100% in your job. Something's got to give. When I pointed out the irony of Clark saying this as a single successful career mother, she said she would give all of this up tomorrow if she got married. Maybe God's plan for me is to help other women have amazing... She's not even married! I didn't know who this woman was. I didn't even realize she's not married. So she's telling all of us to quit our jobs and get married when she is not married. I am so look, I am a Schadenfreude of it all. Maybe God's plan for me is to help other women have amazing, healthy families and marriages, and I'm just the messenger, she said. I just have to trust God. Go for it, lady. Go for it. Keep telling yourself that while you get Botox. As a millennial mother who's also been sold the lie that women can easily have it all, what is the lie that women can have it all? It isn't a lie. Like, I know so many working moms who raise kids, are married, and have a career. Like, why is it a lie that women can do both? Like, men aren't told you can't be a dad and also have a career. Women are the ones, and I don't know why the author who is as a millennial mother who's also been sold the lie that women can easily have it all. Okay, I guess it's not easy, but it exists. And women have always freaking worked. Women have always worked. No time in history has a woman sat around at home raising kids and not worked. They weren't paid for their labor, but they frickin' worked. Only women who have not worked throughout history were the aristocrats, the nobility. But for the non-aristocratic women, they actually left their homes. They raised other people's children. They taught in schools. They were enslaved women who were forced to leave their families. Women have always worked. I don't know what the lie is that women can have it all. Like, men aren't sold a lie that they have it all, but somehow a woman working and also raising her kids and getting married means that she's bought into a lie. Like, that's my little rant for the day. But the writer said, I was conducting these interviews on 3 hours of sleep and in between FaceTimes with my own kids. I agreed with Clark to a point. What did you agree with? I am constantly reminded how society makes it extremely difficult for women to balance their professional aspirations with raising a family. Sure, I disagreed with the solutions Turning Point speakers were offering. When I discussed, for instance, instituting paid family leave, state-subsidized daycare, and universal basic income for moms with one 30-year-old mother, she wrinkled her nose and said, I think that sounds a little crazy. That sounds a little communist to me. But it was hard not to concede the basic premise of what Dana Loesch, the former RNA spokesperson, said during her speech. You cannot have it all at the same time. Something will suffer. I could understand why younger women who may have watched their mothers become burnt out, angry, and depressed would rebel against pursuing the same paths for themselves, opting instead for a seemingly softer, more traditional approach towards femininity. The left is always like, you can just girl boss through anything, and it's like, what if you can't? What if you don't have any help? Solia Marschling, a 17-year-old from Nashville, said, I think that's one of the biggest things for Gen Z girls. They're looking for someone to say, you know what, you can't have it all, so here are your options, and do what you feel is right. I'm losing my mind reading this. Cooper attempted to thread that needle in her speech. You do not have to stay at home and make sourdough, she said, comparing the trad wife aesthetic to the same black and white framework created by lean-in girl boss feminism. You will fall somewhere in between these two poles of stay-at-home motherhood and pursuing a career. You can build a life that is uniquely yours. I don't think feminism has ever claimed that life will be easy because you're a feminist. Men are allowed to work and to fail at parenting without being judged for it. Like, I know of so many people who had absentee fathers while their mothers worked a full-time job and raised them while their dad wasn't out of the picture, and we didn't blame patriarchy. We're somehow blaming feminism for that. And then she talks about Charlie Kirk's message. Such nuanced messaging, however, was rare among the summit speakers. Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk and his wife Erica, I looked up his wife Erica. She has a doctorate. Like, she was a U.S. Miss America model. I believe she worked full-time and she got her doctorate. These conservative men are not marrying uneducated, high school educated women. They are marrying women who went to college, some of them all the way to get a doctorate, women who were working. And now that they've found a wife who is very college educated, who is working full-time, who is able to contribute to their career, that's when they're telling other young women to just get their MRS degree.
I'm a freshman in high school, and I was wondering, as someone who has a different opinion on college, what would you say the pros and cons are? Because I'm interested in political journalism, and what would your advice be?
Yes, so let me also speak to some of the young ladies here in high school where your top, who's here where your top priority is get married and have kids? Raise your hand. Okay. Interestingly, I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree. And no, seriously. And just be clear, that's why you're going to college, right? Don't lie to yourself, I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here, and that's okay.
Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk and his wife Erica in particular seemed fixated on encouraging the women in the audience, many of whom were already enrolled in college or working full-time, to get married and have babies as soon as possible. Motherhood is not a pause, it's a launch pad, Erica Kirk said, urging the young women in the audience to forego their careers and avoid chasing a paycheck and a title in a corner office and sacrifice a short window of your time. That struck me as an unusual thing to say at a summit for college students and young professionals where many companies, Turning Point included, had set up recruiting booths and where few of the featured speakers were full-time, stay-at-home mothers themselves. I was not the only one confused by this message. I think it's interesting that a bunch of highly educated career women are going on stage telling other women to stay at home to raise their kids, said one 24-year-old who requested I withhold her name. The young women I spoke to virtually all said that while they dreamed of becoming wives and moms, they had no intention of delaying their entrance into the workforce. One person I spoke to wanted to become a day camp director, another an influencer, yet another was training to become a nurse and a physical therapist, despite her conservative Christian grandmother's objections. It's not about anybody else's opinion, she said. It's about my path and what God wants for me. And I think it's really annoying. I don't think it's really annoying. I know it's really annoying that these speakers and people like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point are using the frustration with the fact that we hustle in America, we work our asses off, and we have a lot of money taken out in taxes, and our government spends all of that money on war and propping up the military budget instead of investing in things like universal basic income and paid parental leave and universal health care. We've been hustled, we have been scammed by the conservative movement that if we just stay at home and raise kids and don't enter the workforce that we would be happier, when the truth is neither of those things are going to make you happy. If you're a stay-at-home wife and not working, you are going to be hustling to make sure that your 2 pennies stretch as far as they can, because the cost of living in America is truly insane. And one income is simply not enough for most families. And the reason it is so hard for most families is we are all one paycheck away from being homeless, basically. And that is because of failed government policies, not because of feminism. I think this article from The Cut highlights several thoughts I've had in my head for a while. I am Gen Z / on the cusp of millennial. When people attack millennials, I'm like, I'm a millennial. When people attack Gen Z, I'm like, I'm Gen Z. I was really attacking Gen Z in this video, so my millennial jumped out. Brett Cooper is a great personality, and I think she highlights the problem I see a lot with leftist media. There's not really young leftists sharing their thoughts online. I don't even consider myself a leftist. I'm pretty liberal, and I agree with a lot of leftist points, but I'm pretty staunchly Democratic liberal personality. And we don't really see young Democrats sharing their views on the internet. And I know young Democrats exist, but they get really attacked by leftists for not being leftist enough. And I think that's a horrible reaction, because right-wing people don't really get attacked for being, not right-wing enough. Right-wing people can have pretty moderate views and still be accepted, applauded, and embraced by the conservative movement. I think Amir Odom is a great example of that. He's a gay, black, conservative man. And even though he's part of the LGBTQ community, he is still celebrated and accepted. I mean, he's never going to be accepted by the Daily Wire, but a lot of young conservatives look up to him and they don't really care about his sexuality. Whereas on the left-wing side of things, if you diverge from one point of what it means to be a left-wing person, then you are ostracized and you're not going to be promoted. And also the Democratic Party is really bad at outreach and elevating young voices that would appeal to many people. I think they elevate people who are actually kind of controversial and turn people off more than they elevate people who would bring people into the party. I think they're really good at promoting 13-year-old children. That 13-year-old kid who's endorsing the next DNC chair. I'm why are we listening to a 13-year-old child? No 13-year-old can vote. Why would we care who a 13-year-old endorses? Because between 13 and 18, they're going to drastically change anyway. And if I'm 21 or I'm 31, I literally do not give an F what a 13-year-old says about the Democratic Party. I do not care. I think it's an abuse. I think it's actually abusive to elevate a 13-year-old's political opinion. The Democratic Party is more interested in elevating 13-year-olds than they are in listening to actual young Democrats like David Hogg. For example, they kicked David Hogg out of leadership position because he disagrees with some of the platform of the Democratic Party and some of the strategies that the Democratic Party is moving. And I think that's a prime example. You will accept a 13-year-old endorsing a candidate in the DNC election, but you're not going to accept David Hogg saying maybe we shouldn't let geriatric people who are diagnosed with cancer run for office and be elected and then die while they're in Congress, allowing things like Trump's big, beautiful bill to get passed because one Democratic vote could have stopped that, but they were dead, and we didn't have a Democrat elected to that position at that point. So I think Brett Cooper was absolutely right. I actually think a lot of liberal people would benefit by watching somebody like a Brett Cooper or an Amir Odom, because they are actually pretty middle of the road when it comes to politics. And I'm not saying go out and download Theo Vaughn's podcast and listen to it all. I'm saying understand that young conservatives are actually pretty moderate. And the reason we've alienated them as a Democratic Party is because we don't understand what voters are interested in. And I think that appealing to too many identities within the party have actually diminished the power of the party voice as a whole. If the right wing can listen to a young gay black man, and a young gay black man leaves the Democratic Party for the Republican Party because he doesn't feel like his voice is heard and his concerns matter, then the party has a problem. I don't think the rise of young right-wing conservative people is the death knell of the United States, and I don't think these people are lost to the Conservative Party forever. I do think they're kind of crazy to say they were once liberal when they're so young. I was actually conservative till my mid-20s before I became more I voted Republican until I was 25. And I considered myself a Republican until I was 25, and then I became liberal. I would never, if I was a Republican until I was 18 and then magically changed my vote to liberal, I would never say that I was Republican. But because I was actively Republican and I worked on Marco Rubio's campaign for president in 2016, I considered myself a very young Republican. And I think a young Republican, can realize how the party was not holding true to its values. I think a prime example of that right now is the Republicans ran on no more wars in the Middle East, and now they're actively helping Israel bomb Iran and actively stirring up conflict in Iran and pushing for regime change, which no sane person wants the United States to get involved with regime change in the Middle East. Not that I endorse the Iranian regime. I think the Iranian regime is the definition of evil. I absolutely despise the Iranian regime, and I will be out there in the streets protesting the Iranian regime. The young woman who was killed for not wearing her headscarf correctly, I was actively reposting posts about that. I am all for the downfall of the Ayatollah of Iran. I want the Iranian regime to fall, just like I want the North Korean regime to fall, just like I want Vladimir Putin's regime to fall, just like I want the guy Viktor Orban in Hungary to have an actual legitimate election and for him to be his political party to be defeated. I want all dictators and evil people to fall. I don't want the United States to be orchestrating that, because when the United States orchestrates military coups or whatever they do in the Middle East, it actually causes more problems. Like ISIS happened because of us toppling a dictatorship in Iraq. Not that that dictatorship was good, but evil things happen when we topple dictators. It's just the United States is really bad about overthrowing other governments. We're just really bad at it. The Democratic Party actually has an opportunity to step into here and say, if you are an anti-war activist in the Republican Party and you're frustrated with the warmongering and the neocons and the Trump administration, come join us. Like, we welcome you. But will the Democratic Party do that? No, they'll ask a 13-year-old who to endorse for DNC instead. I'm really hating on the Democratic Party right here. But I just wanted to end this video by saying the Democratic Party is failing young people by not offering a viable solution to the Republican Party. They're not pushing for the policies that young people want to see happen. We are hung up on cultural issues that are important, like we should protect transgender youth, we should protect LGBTQ rights, we should protect the right to abortions, but they should not be the sole reason people vote Democrat, because when they're the sole reason people vote Democrat, we lose people on kitchen table issues like the price of eggs, the interest rates skyrocketing, wars in the Middle East that are directly impacting the price of oil, which causes the price of gas to go up, and our children to lose their lives fighting for American interest in the Middle East. So I don't think Brett Cooper is wrong. I don't think Brett Cooper is wrong that there is no left-wing influencer or no left-wing, especially women. I don't see left-wing women being elevated in the Democratic Party with media platforms or even positions of influence. Most left-wing women are ostracized because they're not leftist enough or because they take a position that the Democratic Party leadership doesn't accept. I can't think of her name, but there is a left-wing podcaster who is on CNN, and I'm really happy to see her presence on CNN right now because she is a young left-wing voice of reason. And also, I think people like her should be given more positions of influence. And seeing her on CNN makes me so happy. And the reason she's on CNN is she is running for office. So that's my message. If you're a liberal like me, or you want to see more women and young feminists in positions of influence, maybe we should just run for office, because then we can get our voices on CNN and talk about issues that matter to us. But it is ridiculous. Brett Cooper has never run for office, and yet she has a massive platform. So it's ridiculous that for a liberal influencer to get a platform, they literally have to run for office and then CNN will book them. We just don't have leftist influence. We don't have leftist media influence corporations like the Daily Wire to promote YouTube channels and podcasts and things like that. If the Republican Party didn't invest in the Daily Wire, it was conservative men who decided to invest in the Daily Wire. If we don't get liberal people to start investing in social media and making it more entertaining than just lecturing us on how to vote and stuff like that, and elevating 13-year-olds telling us who to vote for in the DNC election, I think we will ultimately fail when it comes to winning over the media landscape for Gen Z. We know this is a problem, and if you just keep arguing who's going to be the next Joe Rogan, it doesn't fix it. Anyway, that's my video for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Feel free to cancel me in the comments. I'll keep plugging away and making content. I did launch channel memberships if you want to check that out. I think it's $4.99 a month. I plan to upload videos very frequently to channel memberships that are members only. I've already uploaded one short, and I hope to film a long form video soon. And feel free to let me know in the comments if there's a specific topic or something you saw online that you think I should react to. I will be soon making a Google Doc that I think people could submit, or a Google form that people can submit things they would like to see me react to. I saw that idea and I was like, I'm gonna run with that. I also have my vlog channel where I will continue to be creative and share the fun moments of my life, because I love vlogging. I'll be talking about all of that later in a channel update and why I'm separating my vlogs from my commentary videos, and just being able to focus more on commentary and sharing whatever's on my mind here on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all around the internet. See ya.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.